There is a pain that has no tears. Not because it does not hurt, it hurts more than anything, but because somewhere between the feeling and the release, something breaks. The signal gets lost, the emotion rises, reaches the surface, and then just sits there, heavy and stuck, with nowhere to go. You feel the ache, you feel the pressure behind your eyes, you feel the tightness in your throat. Your body wants to cry, your mind wants to cry. Everything in you is begging for that release, that cathartic flood of tears that would finally let the pressure escape. But it does not come, and you are left sitting in the aftermath of an emotion that has no exit, wondering what is wrong with you. You see other people cry. They cry at movies, at funerals, at arguments, at beautiful sunsets, and they seem lighter afterward. They seem cleansed. Oh, and you watch them and think, why can I not do that? Why does my body refuse to give me the one thing that would make this hurt a little less? If this is you, if you have sat in your car or your shower or your bed, aching for tears that will not come, then you are not cold, you are not heartless, and you are not numb. There is real documented psychology behind why your tears have been locked away, and understanding it is the first step toward finding the key. This is the psychology of people who cannot cry even when they want to. First, let us dismantle the myth. The inability to cry does not mean you feel less. In many cases, it means you feel more. Psychologists distinguish between emotional experience and emotional expression. These are two separate neurological processes. Emotional experience happens in the limbic system, particularly the amygdala and the insula. Emotional expression, the outward manifestation of that emotion through tears, facial expressions, or vocalization, involves a different set of pathways, including the anterior cingulate cortex and the autonomic nervous system. When someone cannot cry, it is not because the emotion is absent. It is because the pathway between feeling the emotion and expressing the emotion has been disrupted. The experience is fully intact. The expression is blocked. And that blockage creates a unique form of suffering because the pressure builds with no valve to release it. A study published in the journal Comprehensive Psychiatry found that individuals who reported difficulty crying scored higher on alexithymia scales, a condition characterized not by lack of emotion, but by difficulty identifying and expressing emotions. These individuals often feel overwhelmed by emotional sensations they cannot name. And because they cannot name them, they cannot express them. But alexithymia is not the only explanation. For many people, the inability to cry is the direct result of learned suppression. If you were told as a child that crying is weak, that boys do not cry, that you are being dramatic, or that crying will only make things worse, your brain learned to intercept the tear response before it reaches the surface. This was not a choice. This was conditioning. And over time, the neural pathway that connects emotion to tears became so weakened by disuse that it essentially went offline. You did not lose the ability to cry. It was taken from you, one shaming comment at a time. The origins of this emotional blockage are almost always traceable to early environments where crying was met with negative consequences. In many families, particularly those with traditional or authoritarian structures, emotional expression was treated as a behavior to be corrected rather than a signal to be understood. Children who cried were told to stop. Children who persisted were punished, ignored, or ridiculed. And children who learned to suppress their tears were rewarded, often with approval, affection, or simply the absence of conflict. This creates a neurological feedback loop. The brain learns that crying equals danger and not crying equals safety. Over thousands of repetitions throughout childhood, this pattern becomes automatic. The emotional system still generates the feeling, but the expressive system, the part that translates feeling into tears, shuts down before the tears can form. For boys, this conditioning is often explicit and culturally reinforced. Man up, toughen up, do not be soft. These phrases, repeated across generations, have created millions of adult men who feel everything but can express almost nothing. And the consequence is not strength. The consequence is emotional isolation, higher rates of substance abuse, and a significantly elevated risk of suicide. For girls and women, the suppression is often subtler but equally damaging. They are allowed to cry, but only about the right things, and only in ways that do not inconvenience others. A girl who cries too often is dramatic. A woman who cries at work is unprofessional. A mother who cries is frightening to her children. And so, women learn to cry in private, if they cry at all. There is also a neurological component that goes beyond conditioning. Chronic stress during formative years can alter the functioning of the vagus nerve, which plays a critical role in the parasympathetic nervous system. Crying is a parasympathetic response, meaning it happens when the body shifts from a state of stress to a state of release. But if the nervous system is locked in a chronic state of sympathetic activation, fight or flight, that shift never occurs. The body stays braced. The tears stay locked. This is why many people report that they could not cry during the most painful moments of their lives: the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, a devastating loss, only to find themselves crying weeks or months later over something seemingly trivial. The body was in survival mode during the crisis. The tears could only come once the danger passed. People who cannot cry share a set of patterns that reveal just how deeply this suppression affects their daily lives. The first is emotional compression. Because tears cannot serve as a release valve, emotions get compressed into a smaller and smaller internal space. The person feels everything: anger, grief, loneliness, frustration, but all of it is experienced as a single, undifferentiated heaviness. They cannot tell you whether they are sad or angry because the emotions have been packed so tightly that they have merged into one unrecognizable mass. The second is physical symptom conversion. When emotional energy cannot exit through expression, it exits through the body. Chronic headaches, jaw pain from clenching, chest tightness, like stomach issues, back pain, unexplained fatigue. These are not random ailments. They are the physical manifestation of emotions that have nowhere else to go. The clinical term is somatization, and it is extraordinarily common in people who cannot cry. The third is emotional numbness episodes. Periodically, the emotional system becomes so overloaded that it shuts down entirely. The person stops feeling anything at all. Not happy, not sad, not angry. Just empty. This is not depression, although it resembles it. It is a circuit breaker. The brain is protecting itself from emotional overload by temporarily disconnecting from emotion altogether. The fourth is the envy of emotional expression. People who cannot cry often feel a quiet, unspoken envy toward those who can. They watch someone else cry and think, "I wish I could do that." They see tears as a luxury they have been denied. And this envy carries its own shame because they feel that wanting to cry means wanting to be weak. The fifth is the random breakthrough. Once every few months, or sometimes once every few years, the wall cracks. And when it does, the tears that come are not proportional to the trigger. They cry over a song, a commercial, a memory that surfaces unexpectedly. And the crying is not gentle. It is violent, convulsive, overwhelming, because it is not just about that moment. It is about every moment that has been trapped behind the wall since the last time it broke. And afterward, they feel terrified, not relieved, terrified, because the loss of control is itself a threat to a nervous system that survives on containment. And so, the wall goes back up, stronger than before. Oh, and the cycle continues. The science of crying reveals why tears are not a weakness, but a biological necessity. Biochemist William Frey conducted pioneering research showing that emotional tears contain stress hormones, specifically adrenocorticotropic hormone and leucine enkephalin, a natural painkiller. This means that crying is not merely a psychological release, it is a biochemical detoxification process. When you cry, you are literally flushing stress chemicals from your body. This is why people feel better after crying. It is not placebo, it is chemistry. And people who cannot cry are being denied this chemical reset, which means their stress hormones accumulate without a natural outlet. Research published in the journal Motivation and Emotion found that crying activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes a state of rest and recovery. Crying shifts the body from fight or flight mode into relaxation mode. For people who are stuck in chronic sympathetic activation, the inability to cry means they remain locked in a stress state with no physiological mechanism for transition. A study from Tilburg University in the Netherlands found that individuals who cry more frequently report better mood regulation, higher emotional awareness, and stronger social bonds. Crying, the researchers concluded, serves both an intrapersonal function, helping the individual process emotion, and an interpersonal function, signaling to others that support is needed. Research on gender and crying has revealed that while women cry an average of 5 times per month and men cry an average of once per month, this difference is largely cultural rather than biological. Studies of testosterone levels show that while higher testosterone slightly elevates the crying threshold, it does not eliminate the capacity. The primary factor that determines whether someone can cry is not biology. It is socialization. Neuroimaging studies have also shown that the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain region most involved in generating tears, shows reduced activation in individuals who report chronic emotional suppression. This suggests that the inability to cry creates a neuroplastic change in the brain itself. The longer you suppress tears, the harder it becomes to produce them, because the brain literally rewires itself around the suppression. Let us sit with what this actually feels like for a moment. It feels like something is trapped inside your chest. Not metaphorically, physically. A pressure that sits there day after day, that never gets lighter because the only thing that would lighten it is the one thing your body refuses to do. It feels like watching a movie that everyone says is heartbreaking, and feeling the heartbreak, genuinely feeling it, but producing nothing. No tears, no release, just the feeling, heavy and unmoving, like a stone in your throat. It feels like going to a funeral and feeling devastated but standing there with dry eyes while everyone around you weeps, and wondering if people think you do not care, wondering if maybe you do not care, wondering if something inside you is fundamentally broken. It feels like wanting to cry so badly that you try to force it. You put on sad music. You think of painful memories. You press the emotional bruise as hard as you can, hoping that something, anything will break through. And sometimes you get close. Sometimes your eyes sting and your breath catches, but the tears do not fall, and you are left feeling more frustrated than before. And the loneliest part is this: you carry so much inside you, so much grief, so much love, so much human experience that demands expression, and you have no way to let it out. It just sits there, pressing against the walls of a container that was never meant to hold this much. You are not cold. You are a dam, and behind that dam is an ocean. The world gets this catastrophically wrong. When someone does not cry, the world assumes they are strong, unfeeling, or unaffected. None of these are true. The inability to cry has nothing to do with the depth of feeling and everything to do with the freedom of expression. These are different systems. A person can feel devastated without producing a single tear, just as a person can cry without feeling much at all. The world also tells people who cannot cry that they need to just let it out, as if the blockage is a choice. As if the person standing at their mother's funeral with dry eyes would not give anything to feel the release that everyone else is experiencing. Telling someone who cannot cry to just cry is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk. The system is damaged. Willpower cannot override neurology, and perhaps the most damaging misunderstanding is that therapy will fix it quickly. While therapy can absolutely help, and approaches like EMDR and somatic experiencing are particularly effective, the process of relearning how to cry often takes months or years. The neural pathways need to be rebuilt. The nervous system needs to learn that tears are safe, and that learning cannot happen in a single session. Healing this does not mean you will suddenly become a person who cries at commercials. It means you will become a person who has the option. And having the option is everything. If you recognize yourself in this, here are pathways toward reconnection. First, start with the body rather than the mind. Traditional talk therapy asks you to access emotions through language, but for people whose emotional expression has been neurologically blocked, the body is a more effective entry point. Somatic experiencing, body-based meditation, and breathwork can begin to loosen the physical armoring that holds tears in place. Second, practice emotional labeling. When you feel a heaviness, a tightness, an unnamed sensation, try to name it. Not fix it, not analyze it, just name it. I think I am feeling grief right now. This activates the prefrontal cortex and creates a bridge between the feeling and the words, which is the first step toward the bridge between the feeling and the tears. Third, allow tears when they come, no matter the trigger. If you cry at a dog video but not at a funeral, that is fine. A tear is a tear. The pathway is opening. Do not judge the source. Just let it flow. Fourth, reduce your overall state of sympathetic activation. When the body is perpetually in stress mode, crying is physiologically impossible. Practices that activate the parasympathetic nervous system, such as slow breathing, cold water on the face, and humming, can create the physiological conditions under which tears become possible. Now, you are not trying to become emotional. You are trying to become whole, and wholeness includes the full range of human expression, tears included. If you are listening to this with dry eyes and a full heart, I see you. I see the pressure you carry. I see the frustration of feeling so much and showing so little. I see the loneliness of being misread as cold when you are anything but. And I want you to know that the inability to cry does not make you less human. It makes you a human whose capacity for feeling has outgrown their capacity for expression, and that gap can be closed. One day, the tears will come. Maybe not today. Maybe not in the way you expect. Maybe in a grocery store over a song you have not heard in years. Maybe in the arms of someone who finally makes you feel safe enough to break. But they will come. Because your body has not forgotten how. It is just waiting for permission. And when they come, do not fight them. Do not apologize for them. And do not try to stop them. Let them fall. Let them wash away every moment you were told they were not welcome. Let them remind you that softness is not weakness. It is proof that you are still alive. This is Unspoken Minds, and your tears are welcome here.